Today, we're going to talk about racing starts and how to get your machine up to the highest speed as fast as possible. When you're set up to do a distance piece or a timed piece, be it 2,000 meters or 500 meters or 1 minute, the machine will be at a dead standstill when you start. Your job is to get the machine up to the highest speed possible as quickly as possible so that you can cover the most distance in the least amount of time. There are a number of different starting sequences that rowers like to use, but one of the most tried and true is a 5-stroke start that is broken into the following: 3/4 slide, half slide, lengthen, lengthen, and full. Upon completion of those initial 5 strokes, you're going to go into your high strokes where you're holding a higher intensity and higher stroke rating. And how many of those strokes you take depends on the length of interval that you're entering into. So the racing start for any piece is composed of the initial 5 strokes to get it up and going, then a number of high strokes, and then a shift into your base pace and race pace for your interval. Once your monitor is set for a given distance for the piece, anytime that you pull against the handle, it will start the piece. So we want to be prepared for that by sliding forward into the position that we want to start from as we make adjustments with the menu and the monitor to select our workout. And from our standard list, we're going to choose 2,000 meters. From this point, we want to make sure we're sitting up, sitting forward. We want to roll as far forward as we can before the heels start to lift. The strongest position that we can initially press from is with flat feet against the foot plates. You may think that you're going to get a better first stroke if you can press as far as you possibly can and lift the heels, but it's not necessarily the most powerful position to push from, nor is it necessary in getting the machine to start moving. Our feet are flat against the footboards. We've rolled forward using ankle flexion. We're sitting up, sitting forward in a strong position to push. And now we're going to go through this race start in 50% speed, 50% power. And again, the order will be 3/4, half, lengthen, lengthen, full. And that looks like this: 3/4, half, lengthen, lengthen, full. And so that's at half speed, half power. If you are new to a racing start, I suggest you do it at half speed, half power, 3/4 speed, 3/4 power, and work your way up until you are very comfortable with 3/4, half, lengthen, lengthen, full before you start doing it at full intensity. This time, we're going to go for it with full power, full speed, really getting the machine going. 3/4, half, lengthen, lengthen, full. And 3/4, half, lengthen, lengthen, full. So within those 5 strokes, I'm comfortably down to 126, 125 splits per 500 on this machine. So you can see that within 5 strokes, you can get the machine up and running to a very fast speed very, very quickly. So you will see now on the monitor directly how quickly I can get the machine up to speed utilizing just the first 5 strokes. And here we go. And so you'll see within 5 quick strokes, I'm down to 124 per 500, which is plenty fast. Although in this racing start, the slide length forward is 3/4, half, almost full, and then full. we're not getting fully into the front end of the machine, but at the same time, regardless if it's a 3/4 slide stroke or a half slide stroke, we need to make sure that we finish that stroke off each time. So by now you should have a pretty good idea of how to get the machine up to its highest speed possible in a very short amount of time, within 5 strokes, getting into a very fast pace, very fast rhythm. Now what happens next is just as important, if not more so, than getting the machine going. And what happens next are your high strokes. We are performing these high strokes at an anaerobic intensity. It's a high intensity, it requires a lot of energy, and we can sustain it in conjunction with those first 5 strokes for about 30 to 40 seconds before we're really going to start feeling that burn in the legs and need to make a decision as to what we're going to do in terms of shifting into pace. For the shorter pieces, there may not be a shift. It just might be a full dash from start to finish if you're doing a minute or you're trying to go for max wattage. Even a 500-meter piece is mostly a dash. But past that, if you are in a longer piece, staying in that burn zone past 40 seconds can have negative implications on your ability to carry speed throughout the rest of the piece. Now we'll do a start with 10 high strokes, so you can see what that looks like. Sitting up, sitting forward, rolled forward, feet are flat, ready to go. We're going to go through that 3/4, half, lengthen, lengthen, full, and into 10 high strokes. Ten high. So that was the starting 5 strokes with high 10 strokes tacked onto it. I was able to get my high strokes up to about 36, 37 strokes per minute. I was holding under 130, right around 128 per 500 meters, and doing so relatively comfortably, utilizing that free speed from the anaerobic punch that I'm throwing. But that intensity at 36 to 37 strokes per minute, although I may be able to handle that for 1 minute total, 500 meters total, whether or not I can handle that for 2,000 meters, probably not right now with my fitness, to be honest. What needs to happen, if I were to do a 2,000 meter piece, for example, I would start exactly this way. And I think 10 strokes, high strokes for me, is the right amount of time for high strokes before I shift into my base rhythm. And my base rhythm for 2K right now is probably going to be around 29, 30 strokes per minute. When we're really walking this all out, 5 strokes to start, 10 strokes high, and now we're going to shift over 2 to 3 strokes into our base rhythm for 2K. And it's important that we do this and we don't just sit in these high strokes and hang on to them for much longer. Because if we do so, that has the likelihood of negatively affecting the 2K, specifically the second half of the piece. Now, if this were a 5K or a 6K, I might be doing 5 to start, 5 to 7 high strokes, and shifting within 2 to 3 strokes, as there's a longer duration for that piece, and the start and driving the splits down is not as vital to the outcome of the piece. But in 2,000 meters, 1,500 meters, 1,000 meters, anything less than that, a full start, a good solid racing start, is going to be very beneficial to the outcome. And just like I said that the high strokes were important, what's even more important in my mind is the shift to pace from the high strokes. Where a lot of athletes get into trouble is that they do not have a definitive shift into their race pace. And they're in this gray area where they're not really sure what intensity they're at or what pace that they're at. And that can cost you, especially if you're erring on the side of too much intensity for too long. Now I'm going to do the starting 5 strokes, the 10 high strokes, and then I will shift over 2 to 3 strokes into my rhythm, which I will hold for 10 strokes. So we're looking at 25 total strokes here, 5 in the starting sequence, 10 high strokes, and 10 at pace. And that looks like this. High strokes. In 2 we shift. 1, 2 over 3 strokes. And on to pace. 5 more. So that sequence of a starting 5, high 10, and 3 strokes to shift into pace is exactly how I would start my 2K. All in, that starting sequence is about 35 seconds. After the 10th stroke at pace, it was about 45 seconds. So I'm well within that range of not burning that anaerobic candle for too long and getting myself into a situation throughout the piece, specifically on the back half of a 2K. So I would always start with that sequence of 5 strokes to get the machine up to speed. I would also encourage 10 high strokes for most pieces. That will be plenty. For anything less than 1,000, you may not come down off of those high strokes at all, or maybe you only need 20 of them, but that's determined by you and what you feel. If the pieces are longer, on the other hand, you may not need a full set of 10 high strokes. You might only need 5 or 6 or 7, and that's up to you as well. As for the settle, be as direct as possible. It does not have to be one stroke. Nothing in rowing is solved in one stroke. You want to make sure that if you're adding power or coming off of power, which is what you're doing when you shift to pace, you come off that power a little bit, you come off that stroke rating a little bit, small percentage changes. Small percentage changes in rowing make big differences in outcome, and it makes a difference over time. So give yourself the time to make adjustments, not just in one stroke, but 2 to 3 strokes, and that'll be very advantageous for you for any distance, any intensity, any duration. So use this information and use this video to help you get the machine off the line up to the highest speed possible in the least amount of time so that you can have the best outcome over any distance on the rowing machine. If you found this video useful, please like, subscribe, check out the ever-expanding library of content on this channel, and know there will be even more rowing videos coming to you soon.